The marketplace smelled of sweat, rust, and cheap smoke. The sound of shouting traitors mixed with the cries of desperate slaves who were tied in chains. It was not a place for hope. It was a place where dignity was broken and lives were sold like broken tools. In the far corner of the bazaar, a young alien girl sat with her knees pulled to her chest. Her silver-gray skin was covered with dirt, and her once bright eyes had turned dull. The auctioneer called her worthless. Too weak for work, too scarred for pleasure. She had been dragged here after her family threw her away, betrayed and abandoned. The crowd jeered when the auctioneer announced her price. 2 bottles of cheap liquor, he shouted, banging his cane on the wooden stand, and a shopping cart to carry her away. The crowd burst into cruel laughter. To them she was less than an animal, less than a tool. No one raised their hand. No one wanted her. Buyers preferred strong labor slaves, healthy ones or exotic beauties. She was none of these. She was just broken then. Through the smoke and noise, a man stepped forward. A human, tall, with rough clothes and old boots. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He raised his hand without hesitation. "I'll pay," he said in a steady voice. He placed 2 bottles of liquor on the table and pushed an old shopping cart beside him. The crowd roared with laughter. "The human has lost his mind," one shouted, "buying trash for liquor." Another mocked, "Maybe he is drunk already." The auctioneer shrugged. He only cared about payment. With a sharp motion, he unlocked the alien girl's chains and shoved her toward the human. "She's yours now, fool," he spat. The deal was done. The alien girl stumbled forward. Weak and confused, she could not understand. Why would anyone pay even liquor for her? Why would a human take her? Was he crueler than the rest? Would he use her and throw her away again? The human said nothing. He simply held out his hand. Guiding her toward the cart, his grip was firm but not harsh. His eyes did not hold mockery. They held something else. Something she had not seen in years. Calm patience. As they moved through the marketplace, the whispers followed them. Worthless, trash, he'll regret it. But the human ignored every word. His steps were steady, his shoulders strong. The alien girl sat in the cart as he pushed it through the streets. The cart squeaked with every wheel. Her heart raced. She wanted to ask why. But her throat was dry. She wanted to run. But she had nowhere to go. Finally, when the noise of the bazaar faded behind them, she whispered, Why did you take me?" Her voice was cracked, almost broken. The human glanced at her but did not stop walking. "Because you were left to rot," he said quietly. "And I don't leave people behind." She blinked. Her heart ached. She did not believe him. She could not. People always lied, always betrayed. His words were strange to her. They reached a small abandoned shelter at the edge of the city. The human guided her inside. The roof leaked and the floor was rough, but it was dry and quiet. He handed her a blanket, coarse but warm, and placed a piece of bread in her hand. "Eat," he said simply. The alien girl stared at the bread. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she did not trust it. Poison? A trick? Slowly, carefully, she bit into it. It was plain but real. Tears burned her eyes. She had not eaten real food in days. The human sat near the doorway, watching the outside. His presence was strong, silent. She realized he was not watching her like an owner. He was guarding the place like a protector. The night grew colder. The alien girl pulled the blanket close. Her body shook from fear and confusion. Who was this man? Why did he buy her? The liquor and cart? Were they really her worth? As she drifted to uneasy sleep, she heard his voice again, quiet but firm. "No one is worthless," he said, not looking at her. "Not while I'm alive." Her eyes widened in the dark. The words struck deep. She did not understand them, but they stayed in her chest like a spark. For the first time in years, she felt something small but dangerous. Hope. And in that moment, the auction of shame was no longer her ending. It was the strange beginning of a path she could not yet see. A path with a human who had traded liquor and a cart. Not for trash, but for a life that still had meaning. The marketplace smelled of sweat, rust, and cheap smoke. The sound of shouting traitors mixed with the cries of desperate slaves who were tied in chains. It was not a place for hope. It was a place where dignity was broken and lives were sold like broken tools. In the far corner of the bazaar, a young alien girl sat with her knees pulled to her chest. Her silver-gray skin was covered with dirt, and her once bright eyes had turned dull. The auctioneer called her worthless. Too weak for work, too scarred for pleasure. She had been dragged here after her family threw her away, betrayed and abandoned. The crowd jeered when the auctioneer announced her price. 2 bottles of cheap liquor, he shouted, banging his cane on the wooden stand, and a shopping cart to carry her away. The crowd burst into cruel laughter. To them she was less than an animal, less than a tool. No one raised their hand. No one wanted her. Buyers preferred strong labor slaves, healthy ones or exotic beauties. She was none of these. She was just broken then. Through the smoke and noise, a man stepped forward. A human, tall, with rough clothes and old boots. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He raised his hand without hesitation. "I'll pay," he said in a steady voice. He placed 2 bottles of liquor on the table and pushed an old shopping cart beside him. The crowd roared with laughter. "The human has lost his mind," one shouted, "buying trash for liquor." Another mocked, "Maybe he is drunk already." The auctioneer shrugged. He only cared about payment. With a sharp motion, he unlocked the alien girl's chains and shoved her toward the human. "She's yours now, fool," he spat. The deal was done. The alien girl stumbled forward. Weak and confused, she could not understand. Why would anyone pay even liquor for her? Why would a human take her? Was he crueler than the rest? Would he use her and throw her away again? The human said nothing. He simply held out his hand. Guiding her toward the cart, his grip was firm but not harsh. His eyes did not hold mockery. They held something else. Something she had not seen in years. Calm patience. As they moved through the marketplace, the whispers followed them. Worthless, trash, he'll regret it. But the human ignored every word. His steps were steady, his shoulders strong. The alien girl sat in the cart as he pushed it through the streets. The cart squeaked with every wheel. Her heart raced. She wanted to ask why. But her throat was dry. She wanted to run. But she had nowhere to go. Finally, when the noise of the bazaar faded behind them, she whispered, Why did you take me?" Her voice was cracked, almost broken. The human glanced at her but did not stop walking. "Because you were left to rot," he said quietly. "And I don't leave people behind." She blinked. Her heart ached. She did not believe him. She could not. People always lied, always betrayed. His words were strange to her. They reached a small abandoned shelter at the edge of the city. The human guided her inside. The roof leaked and the floor was rough, but it was dry and quiet. He handed her a blanket, coarse but warm, and placed a piece of bread in her hand. "Eat," he said simply. The alien girl stared at the bread. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she did not trust it. Poison? A trick? Slowly, carefully, she bit into it. It was plain but real. Tears burned her eyes. She had not eaten real food in days. The human sat near the doorway, watching the outside. His presence was strong, silent. She realized he was not watching her like an owner. He was guarding the place like a protector. The night grew colder. The alien girl pulled the blanket close. Her body shook from fear and confusion. Who was this man? Why did he buy her? The liquor and cart. Were they really her worth? As she drifted to uneasy sleep, she heard his voice again, quiet but firm. "No one is worthless," he said, not looking at her. "Not while I'm alive." Her eyes widened in the dark. The words struck deep. She did not understand them. But they stayed in her chest like a spark. For the first time in years, she felt something small but dangerous. Hope. And in that moment, the auction of shame was no longer her ending. It was the strange beginning of a path she could not yet see. A path with a human who had traded liquor and a cart. Not for trash, but for a life that still had meaning. The morning sun was pale, slipping through cracks in the shelter's roof. Dust floated in the golden light. The alien girl sat quietly, the blanket still around her shoulders. Her eyes followed the human as he packed a small bag. His movements were simple but precise. Every step showed discipline, like a man used to order. She wanted to ask questions, but her throat was dry. The words stuck inside. Instead, she only watched him. Her heart was heavy. Her mind whispered again and again, "Why did he buy me?" The human glanced at her. "Eat," he said, placing a piece of dried meat and water beside her. She hesitated, staring at the food. Still, hunger pushed her. She ate slowly, carefully. Her eyes never left him. Hours passed in silence, finally. As they walked along a cracked road leading away from the ruined city, she spoke. Her voice was soft, almost shaking. "You do not ask me where I came from." The human didn't look at her. "You will tell me when you want," he said simply. His answer surprised her. Most people demanded. Most pressed for secrets. But he gave her a choice. Her steps slowed. She clutched the blanket tighter. Her chest ached. Memories flooded back. Memories she had buried for years. Her voice cracked. "I once had a house," she whispered. "Not a cage, not chains, a house of stone with lights. And a family name." The human turned his head slightly. "Listening but not interrupting, my people were proud," she continued. "Noble blood, or so they said. I had sisters. Brothers, we wore silk, not rags. We dined on fruit and wine, but in one night, it ended." Her hands trembled as she spoke. Her eyes stared at the empty road, but she was seeing the fire of the past. "An uncle betrayed us. He sold us to enemies. Our walls fell. Our home burned. I was dragged by soldiers, screaming. My family vanished, and I was left alive only to be traded like cargo." She stopped walking. Her body shook. She covered her face with the blanket. Shame poured out of her voice. "They laughed when they saw me. They said I was weak. They said I was worth nothing, and I began to believe them." The human stopped too. He looked at her with calm eyes. His silence pressed on her, not like judgment, but like space. Space she had never been given to speak. Her tears spilled, her voice broke. "Years I have been sold, pushed, beaten, and in the end, the auctioneer traded me for liquor. 2 bottles, and a broken cart. That was the value of my life. That was all I was worth." The human stepped closer. His shadow fell over her. She flinched at first, expecting a strike, but his voice was steady, low and sharp. "No one is worth liquor," he said. "No one is worth chains." Her hands fell from her face. She looked up at him, searching. "Then why take me?" His jaw tightened. He stared into the distance for a long moment before answering. "Because I know how it feels," he said quietly. She blinked, confused. "You? But you are human, you are strong." He did not smile. His voice was like stone. "Strength means nothing when you are abandoned." The girl's chest tightened. His words carried weight. They were not spoken for her alone. They came from his own scars, she realized then. He was not lying. He had his own broken past. They began walking again. The wind brushed dust around their feet. The silence between them was different now. It was not heavy with fear. It was heavy with understanding. After a while, the human asked, "Do you want revenge?" Her steps faltered, her heart raced. The faces of her enemies flashed in her mind. The uncle who betrayed her. The soldiers who dragged her. The auctioneer who sold her like trash, she whispered. "Yes, but I do not have the strength." The human's gaze hardened. "Then take mine," he said simply. She froze. His words echoed in her ears. Take mine. No one had ever offered her strength before. No one had ever stood with her. She stared at him, but his expression did not change. The road stretched long and empty before them, but for the first time, she felt it was not endless, not hopeless. She carried her broken past, but beside this human, the weight felt lighter. That night, as they camped near an old stone ruin, the alien girl sat by the small fire. She watched him sharpen his knife under the stars. His face glowed in the firelight. Hard and calm, she whispered again. "Why help me?" He did not look up. His blade scraped softly against the whetstone. His answer was quiet but sharp. "Because no one helped me, and I swore I would never be like them." Her heart trembled. The broken past still lived inside her, but for the first time, she wondered, could her future be different? The road stretched through empty plains, cracked earth under their feet. The alien girl walked close behind the human, her eyes always on him. Every step he took was steady, calm, almost too calm for a man carrying so little. She had lived among traitors, raiders, and mercenaries long enough to know this human was different. At first she thought he was just strange, but each day she watched him more carefully, the way his eyes scanned the horizon, the way his hands always stayed near his belt, the way he woke at the smallest sound in the night. He was not careless, he was trained that evening. As the sky turned red, they stopped near a cluster of broken stone pillars, old ruins, silent and forgotten. The human built a small fire, placed food before her, and sat with his back against a wall. As if guarding, the girl finally whispered, "You move like a soldier." He looked at her, his eyes narrowed slightly, but he said nothing. She pressed again. "Who are you really?" Before he could answer, voices broke the silence. Harsh, mocking, cruel. A group of bandits stepped from the shadows of the ruins. Blades in their hands, hunger in their eyes. Well, the leader sneered. "A human traveler with a pet. Looks like an easy night for us." The alien girl's heart raced. She grabbed the blanket, fear shaking her bones. She had seen bandits before. She knew what they did. The human rose slowly. His face did not change, calm as ever. He stepped in front of her, blocking her from view. The bandits laughed. "Hand over the girl." "Human," one shouted. "She's worthless." "But maybe worth a drink to us." Her stomach twisted. Those same words again. Worthless. Trash. She waited for the human to run, to leave her behind. It would not be the first time someone had done that. But he did not move aside. His voice was low. "Steady. You want her?" He tilted his head. "Then you'll have to go through me." The bandits laughed louder. They rushed forward, blades flashing. The alien girl screamed. She expected the human to fall instantly. But what happened froze her blood. The human moved like a storm. His knife flashed, faster than her eyes could follow. One bandit fell with a cry. Clutching his arm, another swung wildly. But the human sidestepped, striking with brutal force. His fists and blade were one, controlled, deadly. The girl's mouth opened in shock. He was not just strong, he was trained. Every strike, every step, it was not luck, it was skill. The leader roared, charging at him. But the human spun, using the man's own momentum. In seconds, the leader lay on the ground, gasping. A blade at his throat. Silence filled the ruins. The remaining bandits froze. Their mocking smiles gone, their eyes wide with fear. The human's voice was cold. "Leave or you won't walk again." The bandits dragged their wounded and fled into the dark. Their laughter gone, replaced by terror. The alien girl stared at him. Her heart thundered. She whispered, You're no simple wanderer." He turned back to her, wiping the blade clean, his face calm. As if the fight had been nothing, his eyes met hers, steady. "I never said I was." She clutched the blanket tighter. "Why hide it?" He sat by the fire again, sliding the knife back into his belt. His voice was quiet. "Because I am done with war." The girl's breath caught. She had heard stories of human soldiers, fighters who never stopped, who tore through armies like storms if he was one of them. Then why was he here trading liquor for someone like her? Her mind spun. "You could kill them all," she whispered, "but you bought me. Why?" He looked into the fire. The flames reflected in his eyes. "Because you were not a slave, you were abandoned. And I will not watch that happen again." Her chest tightened. His words shook her. He fought like a warrior but spoke like someone carrying a wound deeper than scars. She whispered, "You are hiding something." He did not deny it. His silence was enough. That night, as the fire burned low, she lay awake, staring at him. The human who fought like a beast but treated her like something fragile. The man who claimed to be done with war but carried it in every movement. She did not know his full secret yet. But one thing was clear, this was no ordinary man. He was dangerous, he was powerful. And for some reason, he had chosen to protect her. Her heart trembled with fear and something else. Something she had not felt in years, hope. The human secret was only beginning to reveal itself, and she knew her life would never be the same again. The road after the bandit attack felt different. The alien girl walked with her head lowered, but every so often her eyes lifted to the human. He carried his bag on one shoulder, steady as always. His steps never slowed, not even after the fight. It was as if violence was normal for him. She could not forget the way he had moved, fast and precise, like a blade of wind. She could not forget the way his voice had sounded when he said she was under his protection. That voice echoed in her chest again and again. At first she kept her distance. Afraid of him, afraid because he was powerful. Afraid because she could not understand why he cared. But as days passed, small things began to change. When they reached streams, he filled her flask first before drinking himself. When they sat under broken bridges to rest, he always gave her the larger piece of food, even when it meant he ate almost nothing at night. When fear shook her and old memories tried to break her, he never asked questions. He only sat awake near the fire, guarding slowly. She realized something strange. He was treating her like she mattered, like her life was worth more than trade or price. One evening, they stopped in a valley where wild grass grew tall. The human built a small fire. The alien girl sat nearby. Watching him with quiet eyes, she whispered, "You give me more than you take." He looked at her but said nothing. Her fingers tightened on the blanket. "Why?" The human's gaze softened, though his voice stayed calm. "Because you need it more." Her chest ached. She wanted to shout that she was not weak, that she was not a child. But instead, tears filled her eyes. She had lived so long with people taking everything, that being given even bread felt unbearable. The next morning, as they traveled, she stumbled on a rock. Her knee struck the ground, pain shot through her. She bit her lip to stop a cry, but the human was already there, kneeling, checking her wound. His hands were rough but careful. He tore a strip of cloth from his own sleeve to wrap her knee. She stared at him in silence, her throat burned. No one had ever cared about her pain before. That night, as she lay by the fire, she whispered to herself, "Why do you do this, human?" She thought he had not heard, but his voice answered in the dark, "Because someone once saved me when I thought I was worthless." Her eyes widened. She wanted to ask more, but his tone made her stop. His secret was still hidden, but she knew now. He was not kind by chance. He was kind because he had lived through the same fire. Days turned into weeks, their bond grew in small, silent ways. She started walking closer to him instead of behind. She started sharing pieces of her past without fear. Sometimes she even smiled faintly when he spoke. One afternoon they passed through a ruined town. Children with thin faces and hollow eyes stared at them from shadows. The alien girl froze, her heart twisted. She remembered being like them, alone and hungry before she could move. The human placed dried food on a broken step. He did not call the children, but when they saw, they rushed forward, grabbing it with joy. The alien girl's eyes filled with tears. "You give even when you have little," she whispered. He only shrugged. "That's when it matters most." Her chest warmed. A small flame grew inside her. For the first time since her fall from her noble house, she did not feel like a shadow. She felt seen that night as the fire crackled. She looked at him across the flames. "You protect me, you feed me, you care for me," she said slowly. "Do you not fear I will betray you one day?" The human looked into the fire. His voice was calm. "If you do, that will be your choice, but until then I will walk with you." Her breath caught. His trust cut deeper than chains ever had. She had betrayed no one, yet everyone had betrayed her now. Here was someone who gave her freedom instead of chains. She lay awake long after, watching his silhouette against the stars. And for the first time, she wanted not just to survive, but to live. The bond between them was fragile, unspoken, but it was growing like a hidden root under the soil, and she feared and hoped that one day it would bloom into something unbreakable. The journey carried them farther than the girl ever expected. Villages turned to dust, roads turned to wild paths, until one evening they reached the edge of a ruined outpost. Its towers were broken, its walls half buried in sand, but smoke rose from the center, faint and curling into the red sky. The human stopped, his eyes narrowing. He placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Stay close," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried steel. The girl's heart tightened, her skin prickled with unease. She recognized the smell of smoke, the sound of metal clashing in the distance as they moved through the ruins. Voices reached them, cruel and familiar. Her breath caught. She froze. Her body went rigid as memory crashed into her. The voices belonged to them, mercenaries. The same who had betrayed her family years ago. The same who dragged her into chains. The same who laughed when she was sold. And now here they were again, drunk and loud, gathered around the fire of the broken outpost. The human saw her pale face, her shaking hands. "You know them," he said quietly. Her lips trembled. "They are the ones. They destroyed my house, they sold me." His jaw clenched, his eyes sharpened, then he walked forward, not away, but straight toward them. The girl panicked, grabbing his sleeve. "No, they will kill you, they are many." He looked at her. And for the first time, his voice thundered like a command. "They will not." The mercenaries turned as the human stepped into the firelight. Their mocking smiles widened. "Look what the wind dragged in," one sneered. "The worthless girl and her new master, ha! Still alive?" They jeered, tossing coins at the ground. 2 bottles of liquor. That was all she cost. Worthless then, worthless now. The alien girl shook with shame. Her knees threatened to give way, but the human stood tall, his shadow cutting through the firelight. "Enough," his voice cut across their laughter. Steady and strong, the mercenaries chuckled. "And who are you to silence us, human?" He stepped forward, pulling back the cloth on his arm, revealing scars carved deep into his flesh, marks of battles, symbols of command. His voice carried like iron. "I am Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Front," he declared, "once commander of 3,000 men, sworn to protect those left behind, and today, I stand for her." The mercenaries froze. Their laughter died. They looked at him again, truly looked, and fear began to crawl into their eyes. One spat, trying to hide his shaking. A dead soldier, that's what you are. The front is gone. Your oath is dust. The human's eyes burned like coals. My oath does not die, he said. Not while I live. Not while she stands behind me. The girl's breath caught. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had never heard anyone speak for her. Never heard anyone claim her as worth protecting. Tears burned her eyes. The mercenary leader snarled, "Kill him!" Blades were drawn, boots thundered against stone. The girl cried out, but the human did not move back. He moved forward, faster than fear itself. The clash was brutal. The mercenaries outnumbered him, but every strike of his blade was final, precise. A soldier's rhythm, a commander's rage. His voice roared commands not to an army, but to himself, every word a promise. Protect, protect, protect. The girl pressed against the wall, her heart screaming with every clash. She saw men fall before him one by one, until the ground was slick and silent. Finally, only the leader remained, trembling. His sword clattered to the floor, his voice shook. "You are a ghost. You should be dead." The human pressed his blade to the man's chest. His eyes like fire. "I am not dead, and neither is she." He pushed him back, letting him stumble into the shadows. "Run. Tell the others."
"She is not to be touched again." The leader fled into the dark.
His fear louder than his boots, silence fell over the outpost, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The girl stepped forward, her knees weak, her voice shaking. "Captain, you were a commander and you chose to spend liquor and a cart. For me?" The human turned to her, his face weary but unbroken. "I did not buy you," he said firmly. "I rescued you. That price was nothing. You are worth more than every coin in this galaxy." Her tears spilled. She fell to her knees, trembling. "Why? Why me?" He knelt beside her, his voice softer now. "Because no one else would, and I will not let another life be crushed while I can still fight." The firelight burned around them, and in that moment the girl's chains of shame cracked. For the first time she believed maybe she was not worthless. Maybe she was alive for a reason. The revelation was clear now. He was not just a wanderer, not just a fighter. He was a soldier who carried his oath like fire, and that fire now burned for her. The ruins of the outpost were quiet after the battle. The fire still burned, casting long shadows across the broken walls. Bodies of mercenaries lay scattered, the smell of blood mixing with smoke. The alien girl stood in the middle of it, her chest rising and falling. She could hardly breathe. She looked at the human, at Captain Elias Ward, his blade still in his hand, his clothes torn and stained. His face was calm, but his eyes were alive with fire. He had fought an army for her, not for gold, not for honor. But for her, her legs trembled, she fell to her knees, tears running down her cheeks. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Why fight for me? I am no one, I am worthless." The human stepped toward her. His shadow stretched tall in the firelight. He knelt down so their eyes met. His voice was low but sharp. "You are not worthless, you are alive. And that is enough." Her heart broke. She had waited years to hear words like these. She had been called trash, slave, worthless, bargain, liquor's price. But here was a man who looked at her as if her life carried weight greater than all of it. She pressed her hands to her face, sobbing. "No one ever said that to me." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Firm, steady, then let me be the first for a long time." She cried, but this time it was not only from pain. It was something else, something brighter when dawn came. The sun lit the ruins with pale gold. The mercenaries were gone, fled into the horizon. The human cleaned his blade and tied his wounds. The girl watched him, her chest heavy but warm. As they prepared to leave, she walked closer to him, her voice steadier than before. "You risked your life for me. But I am only one life," he looked at her, his gaze unshaken. "One life is enough," he said simply. The words struck deep. She thought of her past, of her family's betrayal, of the cages, of the auctioneer's cruel laugh. For so long, she had believed she was worth less than the chains that bound her. But now one human had shown her that her life, even broken, even scarred, still had value. As they walked through the ruins, silence wrapped around them. But it was no longer heavy with fear. It was filled with something new, unspoken but strong. They passed the place where she had once been dragged in chains. She stopped, staring at the ground. Her hands shook. The human paused too, waiting for her, not pushing, not rushing. Finally, she lifted her head. Her voice was quiet but certain. "I will not be afraid anymore." The human nodded once. His eyes softened. "Good, together." They left the outpost behind. The road stretched open before them, long and uncertain but no longer hopeless. That night by the fire, the alien girl sat across from him. The stars glimmered above. Her heart beat with a strange new rhythm. She whispered, "When you gave the liquor and cart, I thought you bought me." He looked at her, his expression calm. "I did not buy you, I freed you." Her chest tightened. She swallowed hard. "And now, what am I to you?" For the first time, a small smile touched his lips. Faint but real. "You are yourself," he said. "No chains, no price, just you." Her eyes filled again, but this time the tears felt light. She laughed softly through them, a sound she had forgotten she could make. The fire crackled between them, warm and alive. The bond they had built, fragile at first, now stood stronger than stone. She leaned closer, her voice trembling but brave. "Then let me walk with you. Not as a burden, not as a slave, but as—" "Me," he nodded, his gaze steady. "Then walk with me. And never forget. You are worth more than they ever knew." The alien girl pressed the blanket close to her, but for the first time it was not to hide. It was comfort. She lifted her eyes to the stars, her heart no longer chained by shame, but lifted by something far stronger, hope. In the silence of the night, under a sky that stretched forever, she finally understood her life was not defined by chains, nor by betrayal, nor by liquor and carts. It was defined by survival, by strength, and by the simple truth one human had given her. The worth of one life is greater than all the gold in the galaxy. And with that truth burning inside her, she took her first steps into a future that was truly her own. With him beside her, she knew she would never again be worthless.